latest bill. The latest bill that's going through the government is a bipartisan bill, which means it has support on both sides of the House, which means more than likely it'll pass in one way or another. It's the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act of 2021. It's a mouthful, but a lot of individuals, mostly critical infrastructure companies, are looking at this with a fine-tooth comb because it's going to create a new incident review office. This is underneath the Department of Homeland Security. But what it's actually going to do is require critical infrastructure owners and operators to report what they would classify as major cyber incidents, to their office. Now, what exactly major cyber incidents classification is, that's still in flux. But what it's going to do is create a timeline period for which all incidents have to be reported. Right now, it's being discussed that this is a 72-hour window. There was conversations of a previous bill coming through with 24. Right now, there's also no talks of any associated penalties, but that's still on the table. Again, this is a bill. It's not signed into law yet. So there's a lot of these parts that are still in flux. But part of the notification and compliance to the agency, you have to identify the tactics, techniques, and procedures to be shared with the greater intelligence community, so they can do some recon to figure out some type of commonalities of major cyber events, as well as help mitigate future events through the office. One of the cool things that the new agency would be doing is actually publishing quarterly reports based on what their observations and future recommendations are. But what I see as one of the most alarming points to this is that the broad definition of critical infrastructure spans over 16 sectors. And that's still an open point. As I mentioned too, the associated point, if there's going to be penalties for failure to report and what the classification for major incident is. But the third thing there is that what is classified as critical infrastructure. It spans chemical, manufacturing, commercial, energy. As you can see on the slide there, financial, dams, transportation. Some of it makes sense, water. And what do you classify as critical infrastructure on the manufacturing side? It's a pretty broad definition by nature. So we're really interested, and a lot of companies are very interested to see how that's going to play out and how it's going to impact them. One of the most important things that we recommend our clients and our customers is to start to think about some of these points. So obviously, you're going to have to identify those tactics, techniques, and procedures. That seems to be a commonality of what needs to happen, as well as sharing in almost real time when something's transpired or there's an attack that's happened. So starting to plan for those real-time threat detections on your OT and IoT networks. Seeing, of course, if you're contained within the critical infrastructure domain, but also start to get a firm understanding of what's out there and what your risk exposures are, because this is coming hard and fast. But there's no definite timeline of when critical infrastructure entities have to be compliant. That's still in flux too, but this is something we all want to take an open eye and look at.